All right, here's the next nonsense that I'm getting myself into, just for you, see if this works. So I am trying to make paperweights, large paperweights. Clearly, I'm working on my firing schedule because that one broke and that didn't work. But when I put them in for fire polish, they did not get, see how it's just kind of a cloudy appearance still? They didn't get as crystal clear as I had hoped, and that's because there's still too much texture and maybe even just a little bit of kiln release on the surface of the glass. So there are ways in which you can approach this. You could probably sandblast it, which would be ideal if you had a sandblaster, and I do not, and I will not. I don't have the space for it, and so sandblasting might be a nice way to get this really rough and cleaned up before then putting it in for a fire polish. That's not going to work for me. You might be able to do etching cream. I just hate that stuff. I think it's nasty, so that's also not for me. I could use diamond pads or even a flat lap to try to attack this. My concern though is that that might not be consistent. I really want this to be a perfect dome. I don't want any, kind of flat points, and if I work it too hard with a diamond pad in one spot, or let it sit on the lap too much, then or on the grinder, then it's going to create a flat spot. I don't want that. So good friend Kathy Bidler suggested maybe trying a vibratory tumbler. And so here we are. I bought this one with tax. It was about $70 at Harbor Freight, and it holds 5 pounds. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to unpack this thing. I bought a rock tumbler a while back that I've used before, and it came with some sort of polishing compound, taker offer stuff in here, but it's clearly not marked. I have no idea, what it is. I'm guessing it's silicon carbide. It could be aluminum oxide. I really don't know. But I've used it successfully before with glass. Now I actually have a couple bottles of stuff from Bullseye, and they look very similar. This is a 60 grit. I've got a bunch of different grits. I need it to be rough because I'm not trying to polish this. I'm really just trying to take a light layer off so that I can fire polish it. They had aluminum oxide that was 70-pound grit at the Harbor Freight. I might go back and buy some of that. I don't know if aluminum oxide works like silicon carbide would. So we'll see. I'm gonna do a little more research. Maybe it would. The tumbler that I bought also came with a whole bunch of these little pellets, which my understanding was, at least in rock tumbling, you use these in with some of this. You don't have to do all grit in order to, or all, silicon carbide. If you mix some of this in, that, creates volume and space and more agitation. Again, I used this very successfully in a rock tumbler. I'm just hoping that on a large scale, this works the same. So I'm gonna unbox this thing and put it together and show you what it looks like. Y'all, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I filled this thing. I used all of those pellets that I had. I figured they're cheap enough and I can just reuse this over and over again. And then that little baggie of coarse I said that I had here, I just tossed that in. So again, I don't really know exactly what it is, but read the instructions. This says you do not add water. So in like a rock tumbler, you do add water. In this, it has to be totally dry. So that's another reason why I'm not sure this is actually going to work. But these are prototypes. These I was just playing with. And so I don't have any concerns about putting something in here that's not fully tested, because that's the point of this. And then I've got them seated in there. I imagine it says don't start it without the lid. So again, I'm a rule follower. I'm not going to start it without the lid. So I'm going to put the lid on and then we'll get this thing started. I would imagine these things are going to move around, shake in there quite a bit. I don't think this is going to take terribly long to kind of get the look I want if this works. So I'm going to turn this thing on. I'll check it maybe every 15 minutes or so and see what happens. Let me put the lid on. Here, I'll just do this clumsily while you watch. And as I thought, it's hard for me to even line up a hole and do two things at once. But I'm going to bolt this down, turn the wing nut. All right, and then let's see how loud this thing is. I'm trying to get this nice and tight. There we go. I've got it plugged in. I'm a little nervous. Well, it's probably coming across pretty loud. It's actually not as bad as I thought. It doesn't seem to be moving. It seems seated quite well. So let's just let this run and see what happens. Okay, I let this run like a half an hour or so, and it's just not doing anything. So I am changing my process. I'm going to now get some of these out because I don't need this much in here. The capacity of this thing's only 5 pounds, so I want to be careful not to overload it. So I'm going to take a lot of the plastic pellets out. I did go back and I bought the aluminum oxide. This should work on glass, as I was reading online. So I'm going to put some aluminum oxide in here in place of the pellets. Can't put too much though, again, because of weight, but we're going to try that and see how that goes. Well, folks, this is just not cutting it. This has ran for I let this go for a couple of hours, I think. And not much has changed. These are a little beat up around the edges, but not much on the top, not as much as I would want to get the effect that I'm looking for. So one last try to make sure. I'm thinking, you know, maybe it would work with smaller glass. These are magnificently large, and therefore just may not be good for tumbling like this. So I do have, I was firing some scrap glass to confirm that it was Tecta like I thought, and so I'm going to grab a bunch of these little bits and throw them in and just see what happens if I run it with these small ones in there. Otherwise, this may be a completely wasted purchase. So let's see what happens when I throw these in, and I'll show you after they tumble for an hour or so. Okay, so I let this run for over an hour. There were 12 pieces in here. I got to dig around and find them, but this one I found right away. I've cleaned it off. There is not a single mark, not a thing to this. So after an hour, I would have thought that I would see a little something. So I don't know. This is one of those examples of a video where I don't have a clue what I'm doing, but maybe some of you do. So please comment below and let me know what I'm doing wrong. Is it the medium? What do I need in here in order to get a little bit of a you know, kind of etching, if you will? So again, my hope was that I could put a bunch of little pieces in here and get them all roughed up for a fire polish and not have to do them over and over again myself. Obviously I wanted to do the big pieces. That was a failure. But why does this thing need to take up space in my studio if I can't even get it to do anything on little pieces? So what am I doing wrong? Drop me a comment, let me know. Hope you've learned something. I am not done learning, but I am done with this machine for now. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.